Hey guys, before you picture pirates as rum-soaked swaggering heroes with perfect teeth and catchy catchphrases, let me stop you right there. The savage daily life of pirates was nothing like Hollywood's blockbuster fantasies. Imagine waking up every day smelling like a dumpster that's been sitting in the sun for a week, with your closest friends being rats and disease. And that's just the beginning. If you think you could handle the grime, the hunger, the brutal fights, and the unending fear of death by cannon or scurvy, stick around, because today we're diving deep into what those legendary outlaws actually endured. Grab a drink, maybe not rum, and dim the lights. This is going to get gritty. You wake up tangled in a mess of soggy canvas and rough rope, your body aching from a night spent on a wooden plank, barely wide enough to hold you. The smell hits you first, a nauseating mix of salt, sweat, and something foul you don't want to identify. The ship creaks and groans around you like a living beast, swaying violently as waves crash and thunder beneath the hull. Your skin is salt-crusted and raw, clothes sticky with grime and soaked in yesterday's sweat. You try to stretch, but every joint complains loudly, and the cold air bites through your threadbare shirt. There's no gentle dawn here. The sun glares down like an unforgiving overseer as you stumble to your feet and take your place among the ragged crew. The deck is slick with salt water and spilled ale, scattered with rope coils and the occasional pool of something darker. The smell of tar, old wood, and body odor is overwhelming. Around you, men move like shadows, faces lined with dirt and exhaustion, eyes hollow and wary. The day's work begins immediately, hauling heavy sails, patching torn canvas, scrubbing decks with sand and seawater, and keeping watch for enemy ships or storms that could mean instant death. The sun beats down, turning the wooden planks into a scorching grill beneath your feet. Every rope burns your hands. Every breath tastes like the sea itself. Food is meager, hardtack so dry it could chip your teeth, salted pork that tastes like leather, and water that's often brackish and foul. Scurvy gnaws at the crew, bleeding gums and weakened limbs, a slow death sentence. The ship's surgeon works with crude tools, cutting away infected flesh with little more than a rusty blade and grim determination. When battle comes, it is chaos incarnate. Cannons roar, splintering wood and sending men flying. Cutlasses clash, pistols fire into the smoke. Blood stains everything, wood, sails, and skin alike. Victory brings plunder, but it rarely brings peace. At night, superstition grips the crew. Black cats, cursed treasures, haunted seas. The ocean's endless darkness is a constant reminder of the thin line between life and oblivion. This is the real life of a pirate, not the legend, but the brutal, unforgiving truth. The sun beats mercilessly now, baking the deck until it radiates heat that makes the soles of your boots ache. You can feel every splinter and nick in the wood beneath your feet as you haul on ropes soaked in salt and sweat. Your hands blister, raw skin peeling with every desperate grip, and your muscles scream as if they'd rather snap than obey. Around you, the crew grunts and curses, faces streaked with grime and sunburn, eyes glazed with exhaustion and a flicker of something darker, fear or madness. It's hard to tell. Breakfast is a cruel joke, a handful of hardtack so dense and stale that chewing feels like a dental experiment in futility. You wash it down with water that tastes like it's been filtered through the hull itself, salty and bitter, but it's all you have. There's no fruit to fight off scurvy's slow, cruel decay, no fresh meat or vegetables, just this endless diet of salt pork, biscuits, and whatever scraps the sea or a successful raid might toss your way. You glance around at your shipmates, some lean and hollow cheeked, their teeth stained and gums bleeding from the merciless scourge of vitamin deficiency. Others sport ragged beards, tangled with bits of old food and seaweed. The air is thick with the mingled smells of sweat, salt, tar, and something fouler, sickness creeping quietly through the ranks. Below decks, the situation is even worse. The hold is a cramped, suffocating warren of bodies and filth. Rats scurry brazenly, their beady eyes reflecting the dim lantern light as they pick through discarded scraps and even the dead. The ship's surgeon, a grim man with shaky hands and a grimy apron, does what he can with rusted knives and a dubious supply of herbs and spirits. Amputations are performed without mercy or anesthetic, the screams swallowed by the creak of the ship and the crash of the waves. You remember the last time you saw it, a young man barely older than a boy, screaming as his leg was hacked off below the knee. The smell of burning flesh filled the air as the surgeon cauterized the wound with a red-hot iron, eyes focused and unblinking despite the horror around him. That night, you couldn't sleep, haunted by the man's desperate cries and the sight of blood pooling on the rough wood floor. Life on deck is a constant battle against the elements and your own body's betrayals. Every task is heavy and unending, tightening rigging as the wind tears at the sails, swabbing the deck slick with salt and spilled rum, keeping watch for enemy ships or sudden storms that can capsize you without warning. The ship creaks and groans beneath your feet, a wooden leviathan barely holding itself together. The pirate code is the only thing keeping this fragile society from tearing itself apart. Though lawless and brutal, there is a strict sense of order. The captain was elected, answerable to the crew, and could be deposed by vote. Loot was divided according to agreed shares, no stealing from each other, or you'd face swift and savage punishment. The punishments themselves were nightmares, floggings, keel hauling, or worse. Trust and fear are the currency here. Then, a shout from the lookout pierces the thick air. Ship on the horizon, the crew snaps to action, adrenaline snapping your limbs alive despite exhaustion. Cannons are rolled out, powder is primed, and you scramble to your station, heart pounding as the ship surges forward like a predator stalking its prey. The battle is chaos, a frenzy of smoke, fire, and steel. The smell of gunpowder burns your nose as cannonballs smash into wood, splinters flying like deadly rain. Men scream and curse as cutlasses clash and pistols crack. Blood paints the deck, sticky and dark, mixing with seawater and spilled liquor. You fight not for glory, but survival, each breath a battle, every move a gamble with death. When the fight ends, victory tastes bitter. Loot is gathered and divided, but the price in lives and limbs is steep. The wounded moan below deck, the sick grow weaker, and the ship itself bears scars that may never fully heal. Night falls cold and merciless. You stand watch beneath a canopy of indifferent stars, the endless ocean whispering its dark secrets. Superstition settles over the crew like a shroud. Black cats, red skies at dawn, cursed treasures, ghost ships lurking beyond the horizon. Lucky charms and tattoos offer faint hope against the vast unknown. You retreat below deck, seeking some fragile rest in the cramped, foul-smelling hammock. Rats skitter nearby, unafraid, the stench of sickness and rot clinging to every surface. You take a swig of rum, bitter, burning, but momentarily comforting. Life ashore offers no true refuge. Pirate havens are chaotic, dangerous places where violence and vice are as common as the salt in the air. Taverns reek of sweat and spilt ale. Rival gangs and naval patrols prowl the streets. Here, the legends live and die. Blackbeard's fearsome shadow looms. Anne Bonny and Mary, red defy all odds, carving names into a brutal history. But the truth remains savage and unforgiving. Each day is a relentless struggle against nature, disease, and man's own cruelty. You wonder, as you stare into the dark waters beneath your ship, how many more dawns you can endure before the sea claims you too. The days blur into one another in a relentless cycle of exhaustion and fear. The sun scorches without mercy, baking your skin until it feels like cracked leather, and the salt air dries your lips until they bleed. Each dawn breaks like a slap to the face, dragging you from fitful sleep, if you can call it that, in a hammock that creaks and sways like it's about to toss you into the briny deep. You're constantly aware of the ship's every groan and rattle, as if it's a beast alive and hungry for destruction. Food is a constant source of dread and disappointment. Hardtack biscuits, rock hard and flavorless, are your mainstay, alongside salted pork that tastes like it's been boiled in seawater. You bite cautiously, knowing the risk of breaking a tooth is high, but hunger pushes you past reason. Water, when you're lucky enough to have it, is brackish and thick with a metallic tang. Fresh fruit and vegetables are a distant memory, replaced by the slow gnaw of scurvy that leaves gums bleeding and limbs weak. You see it in your crewmates' faces, the sunken eyes, the loose teeth, the slow shuffle of bodies worn thin by deficiency. Every inch of your body aches from the never-ending labor, hauling sails that whip like wild animals, mending torn rigging with hands raw and blistered, climbing the rigging to adjust canvas as the ship pitches and rolls beneath you. Sweat and salt mix into a grime that coats your skin like a second layer. The scent of tar and wet wood is ever present, mingled with the pungent odor of unwashed bodies and the faint but unmistakable whiff of rot from below decks. Below the ship's hold is a prison of darkness and disease. The stench of human waste, mildew, and death clings thick in the air. Rats, fat and fearless, scurry over every surface, their squeaks and scratching a constant soundtrack. The surgeon's tools gleam faintly in the dim light, crude and terrifying. Amputations are carried out with grim efficiency, the scream swallowed by the creaking timbers and crashing waves. Infection spreads like wildfire, and every cough could be the last. Trust is scarce among the crew, yet an uneasy order persists. The pirate code is harsh but essential. The captain, elected by vote, must lead with a balance of fear and respect, or risk being tossed overboard, or worse. Loot is shared fairly according to agreed shares, but greed lurks in every eye. Punishments for theft or disobedience are savage, floggings that leave men broken, keel hauling that means a slow, watery death. Loyalty is as fragile as the ship's hull in a storm. Then comes the moment every pirate lives for, or dreads the sight of a ship on the horizon. The cry from the lookout sets the crew into motion like a coiled spring released. Cannons thunder, ropes strain, and the ship surges forward in a deadly chase. The air fills with the acrid smoke of gunpowder, the sharp crack of muskets, and the roar of battle. You fight not for honor or glory, but survival. Every slash of the cutlass, every shot fired a desperate gamble. Victory is bittersweet. The loot is precious. Gold coins, barrels of rum, exotic spices, but the cost is etched in blood and broken bodies. The wounded howl below deck, the sick grow weaker, and the ship itself bears scars from cannonballs and splintered wood. Night offers no peace. The ocean's vast darkness presses in, stars cold and indifferent above. Superstitions take hold, black cats prowling the deck, ominous red skies, cursed treasures whispered about in hushed tones. You clutch your talisman, a faded tattoo or worn coin, for comfort against the endless unknown. Ashore, pirate havens are wild, dangerous places where lawlessness reigns. Taverns reek of sweat, blood, and spilled ale. Rival crews and naval patrols clash in bloody skirmishes. Legends like Blackbeard loom large. Women like Anne Bonny and Mary Red carve their own bloody paths in history. But behind the myth is the brutal truth, a life of ceaseless struggle, where every dawn could be your last, and still you endure, because what choice is there? The sea calls fierce and unforgiving, and the pirate's life is the only life you know. The relentless rhythm of the sea becomes your only constant companion. Every morning, you wake tangled in a soggy mess of ropes and canvas, muscles screaming from the previous day's toil. The wooden deck beneath your feet is slick with salt and sweat, every step a cautious negotiation with splinters and grime. The sun, a merciless overseer, glares down, baking the ship and its weary crew beneath its unforgiving gaze. You breathe in the thick, pungent air, a cocktail of tar, sweat, salt, and the faint but unmistakable stench of sickness that seeps from the ship's bowels. Around you, the crew moves like shadows, faces gaunt and eyes hollow, bodies marked by scars, sores, and the relentless assault of scurvy. Their voices are rough whispers and curses, the language of men who live on the edge of civilization. The ship groans and creaks, a living, breathing beast barely held together by frayed ropes and splintered wood. Each wave threatens to rip it apart. Each storm could be the last. Your hands, blistered and raw, grip the rigging as you climb to adjust the sails, muscles burning with the effort. The salt spray stings your eyes, blurring your vision, but you dare not falter. Below decks, the darkness is thick and suffocating. Rats scurry freely, their beady eyes gleaming in the faint lantern light as they feast on scraps and carrion. The air is heavy with the smell of rot, sweat, and human waste. The surgeon's table is a scene of horror, a crude slab where men scream as limbs are amputated without anesthesia, the sharp scent of cauterized flesh hanging in the air. The pirate code is your only law, a fragile democracy forged in blood and desperation. The captain commands by respect and fear, elected by the crew and just as easily deposed. Loot is divided according to strict rules, theft punished with brutal floggings or death. Trust is scarce but necessary. When the lookout cries ship ahoy, the world snaps into sharp focus. Cannons roar, muskets fire, and the deck becomes a battlefield. Smoke and flame fill the air as men fight for survival, blood mixing with seawater and spilled rum. Victory is sweet but costly, the spoils precious yet shadowed by loss. Night brings no peace. The sea's darkness is absolute, stars cold and indifferent above. Superstitions grip the crew, black cats, cursed treasures, ominous signs. You clutch a worn talisman, a fragile comfort against the vast unknown. In pirate havens, chaos reigns. Taverns overflow with violence and vice. Rival crews and naval patrols clash in bloody skirmishes. Legends like Blackbeard and fierce women like Anne Bonny haunt the streets, their stories a testament to courage and cruelty. And yet, despite the endless hardship, the constant threat of death, and the unrelenting brutality of the sea, you endure, because for better or worse, the pirate's life is the only life you know. The harsh routine of pirate life grinds on without mercy or pause. As dawn breaks again, you find yourself aching in places you didn't even know could hurt. Every muscle stiff, every joint throbbing from the ceaseless strain of yesterday's toil and yesterday's battle. The salty breeze bites at your cracked lips. The sun climbs unrelenting in the sky, turning the deck into a furnace that saps what little energy you have left. Your clothes are stained with sweat and salt, your skin gritty from sand, tar, and grime. Around you, the crew moves like ghosts, faces hollowed by hunger, illness, and sleepless nights. Their eyes hold the weary resignation of men who have stared death in the face too many times and still come back for more. No songs, no laughter, only the low murmur of curses and orders shouted over the creaking ship. Breakfast is a sorry affair. Hardtack so tough it could break a tooth, and salted pork that tastes like it's been sun-dried and then soaked in brine. Water is rationed and often fouled, a cruel joke when all you want is a clean, refreshing sip. You watch a crewmate gnaw on a bit of leather-hard biscuit, his face twisted in a grimace as scurvy slowly steals away his strength. The ship is your prison. In your home, a fragile, groaning beast held together by sweat and splinters. Every day is a battle against the elements and against the slow decay of your own body. The sails snap in the wind, the rigging threatens to give way beneath your hands, and the deck is slick with salt water, sweat, and the occasional spilled rum. You climb the rigging, muscles burning, eyes stinging from salt spray, adjusting the sails as the ship pitches beneath you. Below deck, the stench is overwhelming. Rats scurry without fear, gnawing on scraps, and the occasional unlucky soul. The surgeon's table is a place of horror, crude knives and blunt instruments, no anesthetic, only grim determination and prayer. You remember the screams of a man losing a leg, the smell of burning flesh as the surgeon cauterized the wound with a red-hot iron. The terror of that moment is etched into your memory. Despite the chaos, a fragile order exists. The pirate code governs behavior. Elected captains lead with an iron fist, tempered by respect. Loot is shared fairly, and betrayal is met with swift, brutal justice. The camaraderie is fierce, but tenuous, trust hard-won and easily lost. When the lookout cries, "Ship on the horizon," the world sharpens, cannons roar, muskets crack, and the deck becomes a maelstrom of smoke, fire, and blood. You fight not for glory, but survival. Every cut, every shot a desperate gamble. Victory brings loot, but also loss, wounded comrades, broken ships, and ghosts that haunt your dreams. Night falls cold and dark. The endless sea stretches out beneath indifferent stars. Superstition takes hold, omens, curses, ghost stories whispered between the watch shifts. You clutch a talisman, a worn coin, a faded tattoo, as a fragile shield against the unknown. Pirate havens offer no respite. Chaos reigns in taverns and alleys. Rival crews clash, and the threat of naval patrols looms. Legends walk these streets. Blackbeard's fearsome shadow, Anne Bonny's fierce defiance. But beneath the myth is the brutal truth. A savage, unforgiving life where every day is a battle against nature, man, and fate. And still you endure, because in this endless fight against the sea and death, the pirate's life is the only life you know. The dawn breaks again, but the promise of a new day feels like a curse rather than a blessing. Your body is a map of aches and bruises, each one telling the story of battles fought, sails climbed, and storms weathered. Your hands are raw, cracked from gripping ropes that cut into your skin like serrated knives. The sun, a ruthless overseer, beats down relentlessly, turning the deck into a blazing slab of wood. Sweat mixes with salt and grime, dripping into your eyes and stinging like fire. Around you, the crew moves in a grim dance of survival. Their faces are gaunt and lined with dirt, eyes dull but alert. Some shuffle like ghosts, worn down by scurvy's cruel bite, bleeding gums, loose teeth, and limbs too weak to carry the weight of despair. Others bear fresh wounds from yesterday's skirmish, wrapped in rags soaked with blood and seawater. Breakfast is a pitiful meal. A few pieces of hardtack so stale they might as well be rocks, and a small slab of salted pork that tastes like old leather. Water, when it comes, is rationed sparingly and often tastes brackish, thick with the ocean's salt. The taste lingers bitter on your tongue, a constant reminder of the harshness of life at sea. You climb the rigging, muscles screaming in protest. The sails snap violently in the wind, threatening to tear free. Each knot you tie is a battle against the elements and exhaustion. The sea spray stings your face, blurring your vision, but you dare not falter. The ship is a fragile beast, and neglect could mean death for all aboard. Below deck, the air is thick with the smell of rot, sweat, and sickness. Rats scurry fearlessly, their beady eyes reflecting the flickering light of lanterns as they feast on scraps and carrion. The surgeon works tirelessly with crude instruments, cutting away infected flesh and cauterizing wounds with a red-hot iron. The screams echo through the cramped space, a haunting symphony of pain and desperation. The pirate code holds the fragile fabric of your society together. The captain commands with a balance of fear and respect, elected by the crew and subject to their judgment. Loot is divided fairly according to the code, and betrayal is met with swift and brutal justice. Trust is a precious commodity, traded cautiously among men bound by necessity rather than friendship. When the lookout cries, "Ship ahoy," adrenaline floods your veins. The crew springs into action. Cannons are loaded, and the ship surges forward like a predator stalking its prey. The battle is chaos. Smoke, fire, and the roar of cannons fill the air. You fight not for glory, but for survival. Every slash of your cutlass and every shot fired a desperate gamble with death. Victory brings plunder but also loss. The wounded groan below deck. The ship bears scars from cannonballs and splintered wood, and the ghosts of fallen comrades linger in every shadow. Nightfall offers no reprieve. The ocean's darkness is absolute, stars cold and indifferent above. Superstitions grip the crew, omens, curses, and ghost stories whispered between watches. Pirate havens offer no sanctuary. Taverns overflow with violence and vice. Rival crews clash in bloody skirmishes, and naval patrols lurk like sharks waiting to strike. Legends like Blackbeard and Anne Bonny haunt the streets, their stories a testament to courage and cruelty. But beneath the myth lies the brutal truth of a savage life where each day is a battle against nature, man, and fate. And still you endure because, for better or worse, the pirate's life is the only life you know. Life aboard the ship is a relentless grind, a daily torment that eats away at your body and mind. Waking up is a small victory because every muscle aches like you've been beaten with a club. Your hammock swings precariously with every roll of the ship, threatening to toss you into the unforgiving sea below. The deck beneath your feet is so hot from the relentless sun, it feels like walking on burning coals. Salt air fills your lungs, dry and biting, while your cracked lips bleed with every breath. Your hands, bare and raw, grasp ropes that cut deep grooves into your skin, the rough fibers, like shards of glass, scraping relentlessly. Around you, your crewmates move like ghosts. Their faces are smeared with dirt and sweat, eyes dull but watchful. Some shuffle like the walking dead, their bodies ravaged by scurvy, bleeding gums, loose teeth, and limbs too weak to carry their own weight. Fresh wounds from yesterday's battle are wrapped in filthy rags, and the scent of blood mingles with the ever present odor of sweat and salt. There are no songs here, no laughter, only low curses and shouted commands echoing over the creaking timbers. The ship groans and creaks, a fragile beast barely held together by splintered wood and frayed ropes. Each wave threatens to rip her apart. Every storm could be your last. You climb the rigging again, muscles burning and trembling. The sails snap violently in the wind, threatening to tear free. Salt spray stings your eyes and blurs your vision, but hesitation means death. The ship depends on you. Below decks, the darkness is suffocating. Rats, fat and fearless, scurry over everything, their squeaks and claws scraping wood, the only sounds in the cramped, foul-smelling hold. The surgeon's table is a gruesome theater of suffering. There's no anesthesia, only crude knives and grim determination. You remember the last time, how a young man screamed as his leg was hacked off, the smell of burning flesh as the surgeon cauterized the wound with a red-hot iron. The horror sticks with you, a nightmare you can't escape. Yet amidst this chaos, there is order. The pirate code, brutal but necessary, holds the crew together. The captain is elected, his authority balanced by the threat of mutiny. Loot is divided fairly, or else you face the lash or worse. Trust is scarce but essential, forged in blood and fear. Betrayal is met with swift and savage punishment. Then the lookout's cry shatters the tension. Ship ahoy! Instantly, adrenaline surges, cannons thunder, muskets fire, and the deck becomes a storm of smoke and fire. Blood flies, sweat mingles with salt spray, and every breath tastes like gunpowder and death. You fight not for glory, but simply to survive. Victory brings plunder, but also loss, broken bodies, shattered ships, and ghosts that haunt your dreams. Nightfall offers no relief. The sea stretches endlessly beneath cold, indifferent stars. Superstition grips the crew tightly. Omens, curses, black cats, and haunted treasures whispered in hushed tones. You clutch your worn talisman, a faded coin or tattoo, a fragile shield against the vast, merciless unknown. When the ship finally docks at a pirate haven, there's no peace, only chaos. Taverns reek of sweat, blood, and spilled ale. Rival gangs clash, and naval patrols lurk, hunting like sharks in the shadows. Legends like Blackbeard's shadow and Anne Bonny's fierce defiance haunt the streets, their stories woven from courage, cruelty, and desperation. Beneath the myth, though, lies the brutal truth, a savage, unforgiving life where every day is a battle against nature, man, and fate. And still, you endure, because this wild, relentless fight with the sea, the sickness, and the sword is the only life you know, the only life there is. The morning drags itself over the horizon like a reluctant beast, casting a pale, merciless light on the ship's battered timbers and the crew's weary faces. Your body aches with 1,000 small pains, the stiffness in your shoulders from hauling sails, the blistered palms from gripping rough ropes, the deep soreness in your legs from standing watch on an unforgiving deck. Every joint protests as you push yourself to your feet, muscles trembling with fatigue. The hammock creaks and sways as if mocking your struggle, and the salty breeze carries the faint tang of seaweed and old blood. Your breath catches as you glance around, the deck already alive with grim activity. Men stumble from their makeshift bunks, faces etched with exhaustion and dirt, eyes glassy from broken sleep and scurvy's slow poison. Their clothes hang in tatters, soaked with sweat and salt, stained with grime and dried blood. The smell is overpowering, a thick stew of sweat, salt, tar, and unwashed bodies, mingled with the unmistakable sour stench of sickness and decay. You try to shake the chill from your bones, but it lingers, a reminder that the ocean's cold grip reaches beyond the water. The sun climbs higher, beating down with brutal intensity. The wooden deck radiates heat like a furnace, and the air is thick with the hiss of tar and the creak of ropes under tension. Breakfast is a cruel joke. You bite into a piece of hard tack, rock hard and stale, its dustiness scraping the inside of your mouth raw. The salted pork tastes like leather, dried and tough, each bite a challenge to your already battered teeth. The water you wash it down with is brackish, thick with salt and a faint metallic tang, barely quenching your relentless thirst. Hunger gnaws at your belly, a hollow ache that never truly goes away. As you work, the ship pitches beneath your feet, a living thing swaying and groaning with the endless waves. Your hands, raw and blistered, haul on ropes that bite into your skin, the fibers rough and unforgiving. The sails snap and billow above you, threatening to tear free with every gust of wind. The smell of salt spray stings your eyes, blurring your vision as the ocean lashes against the hull like a wild beast. Below deck, the darkness is thick and oppressive. Rats, fat and fearless, scurry across the floorboards, their sharp claws scratching and squeaks filling the air. The smell here is worse: stale sweat, rotting food, human waste, and the sickly sweet scent of disease. The surgeon's table is a place of horror. No anesthetics ease the pain, only crude knives and burning irons. You remember the screams, how a young man's cries echoed as his leg was hacked off to stop the spread of gangrene. The scent of cauterized flesh lingered long after the operation, a grim reminder of life's fragility on this cursed ship. Despite the chaos, there's an unspoken order. The pirate code is law, a harsh, brutal justice enforced by elected captains, and a crew that trusts no one but itself. Loot is shared fairly, or punishments come swift and merciless. Mutiny is a whispered threat, hanging over every harsh word and broken promise. Suddenly, a cry from the crow's nest pierces the salty air. Sail ho! The world sharpens into focus. Cannons thunder as the crew rushes to their battle stations. Muskets are primed, and the ship surges forward like a predator stalking its prey. The deck becomes a maelstrom of smoke, fire, and chaos. Blood mixes with seawater and spilled rum, the air thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder. Every cutlass clash, every pistol shot is a desperate bid to stay alive. Victory is never certain. When the battle ends, the cost is clear. Bodies lie broken and bleeding, the wounded groan below decks, and the ship bears scars, splintered wood, ragged sails, and fresh holes that let in the cold, unforgiving sea. Night descends like a shroud, the stars indifferent and cold overhead. Superstition takes hold, black cats prowling the deck, whispered curses, and tales of ghost ships that haunt the horizon. You clutch a worn talisman, a faded coin, or a crude tattoo, anything to fend off the crushing dread. Pirate havens offer no sanctuary. Taverns reek of sweat, blood, and spilled ale. Rival crews clash in bloody skirmishes, and the threat of naval patrols is ever present. Here, legends like Blackbeard and Anne Bonny live on, their stories twisted by time, but grounded in fierce, brutal reality. Yet, amid the endless struggle against the sea, disease, hunger, and each other, you endure, because this savage, unforgiving life is the only life you know, the only life there is. The relentless sun climbs higher, its brutal rays turning the deck into a blazing furnace that threatens to sap every last ounce of your strength. Your clothes are soaked through with sweat, clinging to your skin like a second suffocating layer. The air itself seems thick and heavy, heavy with the scent of salt, tar, and the faint, lingering odor of burnt gunpowder. Every breath you take is coarse, filled with the sharp tang of the sea and the sourness of unwashed bodies. Your hands, blistered and raw, move almost mechanically as you haul on the ropes, thick, coarse lines that bite into your palms like angry snakes. The sails above you snap violently in the wind, threatening to tear free and send the ship spiraling into chaos. You climb higher and higher into the rigging, each step a battle against fatigue and fear, the salty spray stinging your eyes until your vision blurs. Below you, the endless, churning ocean stretches into a horizon that seems impossibly far away, indifferent to the suffering aboard. Down below, the hold is a pit of darkness and despair. Rats, bold and bloated, scurry through the filth, their sharp claws scratching the rotting wood as they feast on whatever scraps they can find. The air is thick with the mingled stench of sweat, decay, and sickness, pressing down on you like a physical weight. In the dim light of flickering lanterns, the ship's surgeon works with grim determination and crude tools, hacking away infected limbs without anesthesia. You can still hear the screams of the last man who lost his leg, the sound burned into your memory, along with the acrid smell of cauterized flesh. Despite this hellscape, a harsh order governs the ship. The pirate code is law, an uneasy truce forged in blood and desperation. The captain is chosen by vote, a man who must balance authority with the constant threat of mutiny. Loot is divided fairly, or punishment comes swift and brutal. Trust is a rare currency, traded carefully among a crew bound not by friendship, but by necessity and fear. Suddenly, the lookout's cry cuts through the humid air. Ship on the horizon. Adrenaline surges through your veins as the crew springs into action. Cannons thunder, muskets crack, and the ship lunges forward, a beast unleashed in pursuit. Smoke curls and fills the air, mingling with the sharp metallic scent of blood. The deck becomes a maelstrom of chaos, men shouting, swords clashing, bodies falling. You fight not for glory, but for the barest chance to see another dawn. When the battle ends, victory tastes bitter. The spoils, gold, rum, spices, are precious, but so too are the broken bodies and shattered spirits left behind. Night descends like a heavy shroud, the indifferent stars cold witnesses to the carnage below. Superstitions grip the crew, omens whispered in hushed voices, talismans clutched tightly, ghost stories told in trembling tones to stave off the darkness. In pirate havens, chaos reigns. Taverns overflow with sweat, blood, and spilled ale. Rival gangs skirmish in the shadows, and the ever-present threat of naval patrols looms like a predator. Legends like Blackbeard's terrifying silhouette and Anne Bonny's fiery defiance haunt the streets, their stories a tapestry of courage, cruelty, and survival. But beneath the legend lies the brutal truth of pirate life, an existence carved from relentless hardship, danger, and death. The wind howls relentlessly, tugging at the frayed edges of the sails as the ship lurches forward through heaving gray waves. The sea churns beneath you, its dark, endless belly swelling and crashing with merciless force. Each roll of the deck sends you staggering, knees buckling under the strain as your blistered hands cling desperately to the ropes. Salt spray lashes your face, cold and sharp, soaking through the layers of tattered cloth clinging to your back. Your body is a battlefield, splinters lodged in calloused hands, bruises blooming across ribs and thighs, skin weathered to leather by sun, wind, and salt. Hunger gnaws like a rat at the edges of your belly. The taste of iron lingers in your mouth from the last brawl, where a misplaced elbow split your lip and left you spitting blood onto the deck's splintered boards. The faces around you are no better. Hollow-eyed men with yellowed teeth and raw bleeding gums curse under their breath as they haul the lines. Some limp, others cough into their hands and glance warily at the ship's surgeon, terrified of being marked next for amputation or worse. Scurvy, dysentery, fevers, diseases you'd barely heard of before this life, now stalk every man aboard like silent executioners. The hours blend into a haze of toil. You mend torn rigging with fingers numb from cold. You scrape barnacles from the hull, your breath puffing in short bursts as your hands tremble from exhaustion. The stink of rotting food wafts from below decks, mingling with the sharper smell of tar, wet wood, and unwashed flesh. It's a scent you carry with you constantly, seeping into your clothes, your hair, your skin, until you no longer notice, but others would gag if they caught a whiff of you ashore. Then, like a match striking in darkness, the call goes up. Enemies sail to the east. What follows is not the glamorous clash of sabers Hollywood paints, but chaos, pure, unfiltered chaos. The ship becomes a living creature, its timbers groaning, its canvas wings straining as it surges through the waves. Cannons roar, deafening, concussive blasts that shake you to your bones. Smoke floods the air, acrid and thick, stinging your eyes and throat. The sharp crack of muskets, the ringing clash of steel, the desperate cries of the wounded. Every sense is overwhelmed. Your blade is slick with blood before you even realize it. You swing wildly, driven by terror as much as skill. The faces of your enemies blur into snarls and screams. When the shooting stops, the aftermath is grotesque. Bodies sprawled in grotesque heaps, blood pooling between the deck's boards, wounded men shrieking as limbs are crudely bound or severed. The plunder is rich this time: silver coins, barrels of brandy, chests of exotic cloth. Yet, as the adrenaline fades, you feel only the dull weight of fatigue, the cold certainty that this bloodshed is far from over. Every coin weighs heavy in your pocket because you know you've paid for it with flesh and sanity. Night falls like a black veil. The sea reflects the stars in broken patterns as the ship creaks and sighs beneath you. The crew murmurs of omens, red skies, strange birds, glowing shapes in the water. Some carve charms from bone, others clutch relics, bits of cloth, coins, splinters of wood from wrecked ships believed to carry luck. You stare out across the dark waters, wondering how many of these men will still be breathing by the next moon. Even in port, there's no escape. The taverns are filled with laughter too sharp, eyes too wild. Knives flash faster than words, and gold vanishes from purses like smoke. The naval patrols stalk the shadows, looking for any excuse to hang a pirate high. You drink deep, because it dulls the memories, the faces of those you cut down, the screams of men drowning in red water, the weight of your own choices. And yet, something keeps you here, something primal, something twisted. The roar of the cannons, the endless horizon, the taste of salt and freedom. It's not the gold, it's not the glory, it's the savage, desperate pulse of living on the knife's edge that keeps your heart beating. You can't go back. There's nothing to go back to. This life has carved its name into your bones, and whether by blade, bullet, or the cold depths, you know it will be the sea that writes your ending. Under the merciless blaze of the midday sun, the ship drifts through an endless expanse of shimmering blue, silent but for the rhythmic groan of strained timbers and the occasional snap of canvas overhead. Your arms tremble as you lash a loose rope, sweat pouring into your eyes, stinging like acid. Every muscle screams, every breath burns. The salt air dries the sweat to crust on your skin, leaving you coated in a gritty film of filth and despair. The ocean stretches in all directions, vast and empty, a haunting reminder of your isolation. There's no escape, no sanctuary, only the thin, creaking planks beneath your feet, keeping you from the dark, icy abyss. The faces around you are hollow-eyed, sunken-cheeked men who have lived too long with death as their closest companion. Some still carry fresh wounds, blood-soaked bandages, blackened bruises, while others bear older scars, pale and twisted across weathered skin. Food, if it can still be called that, is little more than a sick joke. Hardtack infested with weevils, salted meat that's more rot than flesh, and water that smells faintly of mildew and metal. You force it down anyway, because weakness here isn't just dangerous, it's fatal. The less fit among the crew waste away, their teeth loosening, their legs trembling from the slow, cruel rot of scurvy. Their skin yellows, their eyes dull, and still they rise each day because no man can afford to stop, not here. The routine is as brutal as it is monotonous. You swab decks slick with blood and sea spray, climb the rigging until your hands bleed, patch torn sails while the ship pitches violently beneath you. The work never ends because the sea never stops testing you. Every groan of the hull, every sudden gust could mean disaster, if not by nature's hand, then by the greed of other men. When battle comes, it does not arrive with ceremony or honor. It strikes without warning, without mercy. A shadow on the horizon turns to a speck to a shape, and soon enough the roar of cannon fire splits the air. Smoke swallows the sky as the deck becomes a madhouse, men screaming, steel flashing, guns barking sharp and deadly. You move without thinking, blade in hand, driven by raw instinct. There's no time for fear, only the endless surge forward, one heartbeat at a time. Blood slicks the wood underfoot, limbs are hacked, bodies collapse, faces twist in agony or disappear beneath crashing waves. And when the noise finally dies, when the cannons fall silent and the muskets cease, you stand amid the ruin, shaking, breathless, your shirt sticking to your skin with blood that may not even be your own. The plunder, coins, spices, fabrics, barrels of wine, means nothing in these moments. It is survival that matters. The quiet, after the violence, is eerier than the violence itself. The sea rocking you gently, as if it had not just borne witness to butchery. Night falls, and the world changes again. The moon hangs cold and distant above the black water, silver light dancing on the waves. The ocean is eerily calm, but the crew is restless. You sit by the dim glow of lantern light, sharpening your blade or mending your frayed coat, listening to hushed whispers of curses and omens. Superstition governs as much of life here as the code itself. A gull landing on the mast, a dead calm before a storm, a distant flicker of green fire on the horizon. These things carry weight. To ignore them is to court disaster. In the rare moments of shore leave, the world becomes almost stranger. Pirate havens like Nassau or Tortuga are dens of vice and violence, where the thin veneer of civilization breaks down completely. In the smoky darkness of taverns, the ale flows freely, the dice roll fast, and the knives come quicker still. You've seen men gutted over spilled drink, fortunes won and lost in an hour, women as fierce and cutthroat as any man, swindling the unwary with a sweet smile and a hidden blade. The law is distant here, but not absent. Royal ships still hunt for you, their gallows waiting, their chains polished and ready. Bounties are whispered about, names of your own crewmates, even your captain prices on your heads that make betrayal a constant shadow at your back. Every drink could be your last. Every deal could end in a dagger between your ribs. But for all its ugliness, this world offers something the land never could. Freedom, raw, savage freedom. No master but the wind, no leash but the rope you choose to tie. Yes, the risks are high. The sea is a cruel, patient killer. But here on these waters, your life is your own to gamble, to burn, to waste. Some say the sea drives men mad. Others say it reveals them. You've seen both. And standing at the rail in the dead of night, the wind tugging your hair, the stars sharp overhead, You wonder, was this madness all along? Or is this the closest thing to truth you'll ever find? One thing is certain, you are no longer who you were when you first set sail. The man you were has drowned somewhere out there, swallowed by salt and time. What remains is something harder, sharper, and far less human. The ocean takes what it wants. It always does. The days stretch endlessly as the ship carves its slow, tireless path across the heaving wilderness of the sea. By now, you move through it, all half asleep, half alive, a creature more of salt and splintered wood than flesh and blood. Your body is no longer your own. It belongs to the ship, to the wind, to the sea. Each morning brings no relief, no pause for breath. You rise before the sun, drawn from a restless sleep, filled with fevered dreams of drowning and fire. Your hands close automatically around rough ropes, blistered fingers fumbling into motion before your mind is fully awake. The motions are carved into you, muscle memory etched deeper than your own name, and you hardly speak anymore. Few do. The crew moves in grim silence, eyes downcast, faces hardened. Words have become meaningless here. There's nothing to say that hasn't already been said. The sea has stripped language from you, along with everything else that once made you soft or kind or human. The routine is brutal, endless. The same motions, haul the lines, scrub the deck, sharpen the cutlass, check the powder, mend the sail. Over and over, day after day, until your very thoughts feel like they're fraying at the edges. Salt crusts every surface, your clothes, your skin, your throat, until you wonder if you're slowly turning to salt yourself. Hunger gnaws constantly. There's never enough food, never enough real food. You chew on rock-hard biscuits infested with weevils. You choke down salted meat, so old it smells of death. The ship's cook, a wild-eyed man with missing fingers and burned hands, serves up watery broth that tastes of brine and rot. It doesn't matter. You eat it anyway, because starvation kills slower than poison. But hunger is not your worst enemy. Sickness is the real rot, the one that starts in the belly and spreads like wildfire. Men cough blood into their hands, gums swell and bleed, legs swell grotesquely, purple and oozing. Below decks, the surgeon, if you can call him that, works by lantern light, sawing, stitching, burning flesh. The screams carry up through the planks, up into the sails, out over the waves. You try not to listen. You try not to wonder when it will be your turn. And the sea itself, endless, merciless, is the greatest threat of all. Some days it is flat and glassy, eerily still, the wind dead, the sails slack, the ship drifts, the men sweat, tempers fray like old rope, fights break out over nothing, over cards, over words, over a glance. Knives flash, blood spills. The calm sea watches without care. Other days, the ocean turns furious. Howling winds, towering black waves, rain that hammers the deck like musket fire. The ship groans and shudders, every timber screaming as the mast leans dangerously, threatening to snap like a twig. You cling to ropes with bleeding hands, soaked to the bone, salt water filling your mouth and nose, eyes stinging with spray. You wonder if this is the storm that will finally take you, but it passes. It always passes until the next one. And then sometimes there is the hunt. The lookout's cry sends electricity down your spine. Sail on the horizon. The ship bursts to life. Men shout. Boots hammer the deck. Cannon crews scramble. Powder is hauled. Shot loaded. Cutlasses strapped to hips. The chase begins. Wind filling the sails. The prow slicing the water like a blade. Hours stretch into heartbeats. You sweat. You run. You haul. You brace. When you close the distance, it all unravels in seconds. The first roar of the cannons is deafening, a concussive blast that rocks the ship and shakes your bones. Smoke fills the air, black and choking. Splinters explode from the impact of enemy shot. The sky is a haze of gunpowder and flame. Then comes the boarding, steel against steel, pistol fire at close range, screams, curses, bodies crashing to the deck. There's no thought in battle, only motion. You slash, you stab, you dodge. Blood splashes your face, your hands, your boots. The air tastes of iron and ash. You step over the fallen without looking. You've long since stopped keeping track of how many. And when it's over, if you survive, you stand among the wreckage, panting, bloodied, shaking. Gold gleams dully amid the carnage. Silver coins, silks, wine casks, jewels, the spoils of war. But the price, the bodies littering the deck, the weeping wounded below, the ragged holes torn through the sails. Some victories don't feel like victories at all. The days that follow are strange. The ship feels quieter, heavier. Some faces are gone. Men buried at sea, their bodies wrapped in canvas and slid silently overboard, the splash marking their end. The survivors are changed too, haunted, hollow-eyed, older somehow, no matter their years. In the evenings, when the wind dies and the sea calms, the crew gathers, some around flickering lanterns, some alone by the rail, staring out into endless dark. They whisper of curses, of ships that vanish without trace, of ghost lights that dance over the waves. Some men believe in sea witches. Some believe the ocean itself is alive, hungry and patient, swallowing ships whole when it pleases. You don't know what you believe anymore. Sometimes you drink cheap rum that burns your throat but dulls the edges of memory. Sometimes you stare at the stars, charting the same empty heavens over and over. Sometimes you sharpen your blade over and over for the comfort of repetition, the illusion of control. The pirate ports offer no real refuge. The taverns, the brothels, the gambling dens, they are an extension of the same madness, just with dry land beneath your boots. There is no safety here, no comfort, only more violence, more treachery. You've seen men killed over a coin, over a look, over nothing at all. And you've long since stopped thinking of yourself as a man of honor. You left that behind with your first kill, your first theft, your first lie. The sea has stripped you down to something simpler, something sharper. And yet, deep inside in the quiet hours, a flicker remains, a faint ember of who you were before the salt, before the blood. A question you barely dare to ask, What will be left of you when the sea is done? The days that follow are an unrelenting descent, each moment peeling away another layer of the man you once were. The ship becomes less of a vessel and more of a living nightmare, a floating prison where every breath is paid for with blood, sweat, and sanity. The weather shifts without warning. One morning, the sea lies smooth as polished glass, the sails hanging limp in the dead air. The ship bakes under a pitiless sun, the heat pressing down like a smothering hand. Sweat pours in rivers, slicking your skin, soaking your clothes, until they cling like a second sodden skin. The planks underfoot scorch bare flesh, and the air turns thick, each breath like dragging molten lead into your lungs. The crew grows restless, tempers fray. The stillness gnaws at the mind in ways the fiercest storm cannot. Men mutter of curses, of ill omens, of the ship being dead in the water, of fate worse than any battle. A brawl breaks out below decks over a jug of rancid ale, and by the time it's over, one man lies broken, his skull caved in against the mast. No one speaks of it. His body is dragged to the rail and unceremoniously tossed overboard. And then the wind returns, violent, savage. What was calm becomes chaos. The sky bruises to black. The sea rises in frothing walls that crash over the deck, swallowing men whole. Rain lashes sideways, stinging like needles. The ship groans and shudders with every monstrous wave, masts straining under the weight of screaming wind. You lash yourself to the rigging, hands numb and slick with seawater, fighting to keep the sails from tearing themselves to ribbons. Men are ripped from the deck like leaves, vanishing into the boiling sea with barely a cry. You see a man swept overboard, one moment there, the next gone. His hands claw for the air, his eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream before the waves close over him. The ship cannot stop. You cannot stop. You watch him disappear without a word. This is the way of things. When dawn finally breaks, weak and gray, the survivors look half dead, faces hollow, limbs trembling, eyes haunted. The deck is strewn with debris, broken barrels, twisted ropes, shattered timber. The dead are fewer than you feared, but more than you can bear. Another burial at sea, more empty hammocks, more silence, but the sea allows no time for grief. Within days, another ship appears on the horizon, a fat merchant vessel, ripe for the taking. The hunt begins again, your ship surging forward, every man aboard electrified with purpose. The world narrows to one thing, the chase. This time the prey fights back. The cannon fire is deafening. Plumes of black smoke billow as the decks tremble with every blast. You load and fire until your arms shake, until your ears ring, until your teeth rattle in your skull. Splinters the size of daggers whip through the air, embedding in flesh and wood alike. The man beside you falls, a cannonball ripping through his torso, spraying gore across your face. You don't stop. You can't. The boarding is sheer madness. Blades flash, pistols crack, men scream, blood spatters your skin, your clothes, the deck beneath your boots. It's a blur of steel and smoke, of faces twisted in fury and terror. Somewhere in the madness you realize you're smiling. There is no fear, only the sharp, burning thrill of survival, the savage joy of not yet dying. When it ends, you stand breathless and shaking, surrounded by ruin. Bodies litter the deck, some yours, some theirs. The spoils are gathered, silks, spices, gold, and yet the cost presses heavy on every shoulder. Another victory that feels like defeat. Back aboard your ship, you clean your blade in silence. The sea rocks you gently, as if mocking the violence that unfolded above it. The sky is bright, the waves calm, the world moves on as though nothing happened. And you are less than you were, more than you were. You no longer know the difference. The nights stretch cold and long. You lie awake, listening to the creak of timbers, the slap of waves, the low mutter of voices in the dark. The memories crawl under your skin, the faces of the dead, the sound of the wounded begging for mercy, the cold gleam of gold that was never worth the price. Some men drink until they can't stand. Others carve charms from bone or hang strange talismans in their hammocks. The few whisper prayers to saints they no longer believe in. And some, like you, stare at the sea until the lines between sky and water blur, until the self dissolves into the endless dark. In pirate havens, the madness only deepens. The streets are slick with mud, piss, and blood. The taverns ring with laughter too sharp, too brittle, the kind of laughter that hides knives in its teeth. Every drink tastes of desperation. Every hand carries the weight of betrayal. Here, death is cheap. A man's life can be ended for a glance, a coin, a whispered slight. The gallows loom in the distance, wooden silhouettes against the horizon, swaying with the broken bodies of those who were too slow, too careless, or simply unlucky. And yet, you return to the ship. You always return, because on land, the weight of what you've become is unbearable. Out there, on the water, the brutality makes sense. The rules are clear. Kill or be killed. Take or be taken. The sea, at least, is honest in its cruelty, and something in you craves it. The endless motion, the sharp breath of the wind, the raw pulse of survival. The land is too still, too silent. The sea keeps your heart beating, even as it slowly swallows your soul. You are not who you were. You don't even remember who that was. Out here, the only truth is the horizon, and it calls you forward, always forward, until the day it finally claims you. The ship creaks and groans beneath your feet, like a living, dying creature, timbers splintering, ropes fraying, sails tattered and patched beyond recognition. The weight of time presses down on every inch of it, as if the sea itself is slowly, deliberately grinding the vessel into dust, and you, clinging to its bones, are just as eroded. Your hands shake as you draw another breath of salty air, the sting of the wind biting through layers of sweat and grime. The bruises on your arms have faded into sickly yellow shadows, but the ache in your bones is permanent now, a dull, familiar throb, the body's quiet rebellion against this life. You've stopped wondering how much longer you can survive it. The better question is, how much longer will you even care? The crew around you is a patchwork of the broken and the damned, faces hollowed by hunger and hardship, eyes that flicker with paranoia, madness, or worse, emptiness. Men who have long since given up pretending to be anything other than animals in tattered coats. Each of them wears death like a second skin, close and constant, every gesture edged with the knowledge that any hour, any minute could be the last. The food is down to near nothing, weevil-ridden biscuits that crumble into dust in your hands, stringy meat so foul you chew it with your eyes closed to keep from gagging. The water barrels, tainted with slime and rot, yield brackish liquid that makes you question whether it's better to drink or die of thirst. And yet you drink. Everyone drinks, because to weaken here is to vanish. The sickness spreads slowly, relentlessly. It starts with the gums, swelling, bleeding, blackening. Teeth fall out, legs swell until they burst. Men waste away into husks, too weak to lift a spoon, let alone a sword. The surgeon's tools never stop. The saw, the needle, the iron poker. They are the true kings of this ship, ruling over every man with cold precision. Amputated limbs pile in the corner below deck like discarded firewood. The smell, sweet, rotten, metallic, clings to your nostrils, your clothes, your dreams. And then, one gray dawn, the lookout cries, "Ship to port quarter, the dead come to life." The hunt begins. The air thickens with tension as the crew scrambles, muscles fueled by pure adrenaline. The ship turns, sails straining, wind filling them with a sudden roar. Your heart hammers in your chest, not with fear anymore, but something darker, a twisted hunger. You don't even need to think. Your hands load powder, ready shot, draw steel. The motions flow from you like breath. The distance closes. The first cannon blast cracks the world in half. The ship shudders violently beneath you, wood splintering, iron singing through the air. Smoke billows, dense and acrid, searing your eyes and lungs. The noise is deafening. Shouts, gunfire, the bone-deep boom of the broadside. You see men cut down mid-step, their bodies flung backward in fountains of blood and shattered bone. And then the boarding begins. The world narrows to violence. Steel flashes, pistols bark, faces contort into snarls of fury and terror. You strike, parry, stab. The resistance of flesh against your blade no longer surprises you. You barely notice when your own blood joins the mix. Sharp cuts, bruises, burns, none of it matters. Not now, not here. When it ends suddenly. A stillness that doesn't feel real. The deck is slick with blood, the air choked with smoke. The dead lie twisted and broken, eyes staring blindly at the gray sky. The wounded groan, their cries thin and ragged. The victorious, if you can call it that, begin the grim task of looting gold, rum, spices, bolts of silk. You barely glance at it. The thrill has dulled. The spoils feel weightless. Back aboard, you wash the blood from your skin in cold salt water that stings every wound. The sky above is pale, lifeless, the sun a weak coin behind layers of thin cloud. You sit, breathless, your hands still trembling, the taste of powder smoke lingering on your tongue. Your heart beats too fast, too hard, as if it knows something your mind won't admit. You don't speak. No one does. What is there to say? The sea stretches on, vast and indifferent. The ship creaks, the wind sighs through the rigging, the waves lap at the hull. Somewhere below, the surgeon's saw begins again. You close your eyes, but you still hear it. You always hear it. The next days are a blur of motion and silence. The plunder is divided, fairly, as the code demands, but the glances between crewmates grow sharper, darker. Greed burns in every eye. The weight of too much death, too much gold, too much fear. One morning, a man vanishes. No one speaks of it. Another man follows, disappears in the night, leaving only a bloodstain near the galley. The whispers start, accusations, curses. You keep your blade close, even in sleep. And then the storm comes. A black wall on the horizon, rolling fast, faster than the ship can outrun. The sky turns the color of bruised flesh. The air thickens, electric. The wind howls with a voice not entirely human. The sea rises, mountains of water crashing down in sheets of cold, blinding fury. You cling to the rigging, soaked and screaming, as the ship is tossed like a toy. Men vanish overboard, swallowed in an instant. The mast cracks, the sails tear free, whipping through the air like monstrous wings. The captain's voice is lost to the wind. You taste blood, salt, terror, and still somehow the ship survives. When the storm passes, the world is deathly still. The deck is broken, the men fewer, the faces ashen. You float adrift in silence, the sky a pale, indifferent blue above the ruin, and you realize this is not life. This is not survival. This is simply enduring. And there is no end. The sea, vast and unknowable, rolls endlessly beneath the battered hull of your ship. Time no longer moves in days or hours, but in bruises, in scars, in the slow accumulation of grime and salt that clings to your skin like a second hide. You've stopped counting how many weeks, how many months you've been out here. The land feels like a half-forgotten dream, the shape of a memory already dissolving. The storm's aftermath leaves everything ragged, splintered wood, torn canvas, men too hollow-eyed to even speak. The ship limps through calm waters, every groan of timber sounding like the last breath of a dying animal. The wounded huddle below deck, the surgeon's blade never dry. Above, the survivors move like ghosts, silent, hollowed out, their faces creased with something deeper than exhaustion, something closer to ruin. Your own reflection, caught in a sliver of rainwater pooled on the deck, startles you. The man staring back is not the man who set sail all those lifetimes ago. His eyes are sunken, rimmed in shadow. His skin is sallow, scarred, weathered like the deck beneath his feet. And the worst part, you don't feel anything at all when you look at him. Another day, another task. You mend ropes with shaking fingers, tar-soaked hands cracked and bleeding. The ship must keep moving, always moving, because stopping, resting, is death in a dozen forms. Starvation, mutiny, madness. Food has become a mockery. The hardtack shatters into dust as you bite it, maggots writhing in the soft spots. You close your eyes and swallow anyway. Hunger drives all decisions here. Rats are trapped, skinned, devoured whole. Anything with flesh becomes meat when desperation sharpens its claws deep enough. Water is worse. The last barrels of fresh supply are tinged with algae, green and thick, sour to the taste. You drink, gag, drink again. Every sip feels like it might be your last without disease. Yet thirst is a stronger master than fear. At night, the world changes shape. The Black Sea stretches beneath a bruised sky, stars cold and sharp like broken glass. The moon watches like a blind eye, silver and silent, and the ship creaks, always creaks, as if speaking in some ancient tongue only the mad understand. Below deck, the crew tosses in their hammocks, murmuring fevered prayers or cursing old gods long abandoned. You sit on the steps, blade in your lap, eyes on the horizon. It's in these hours, these cold, dead hours, that the memories come, the faces of men you've killed, the screams of ships as they burn, the stink of flesh. These are not stories. They are anchors, dragging you deeper into something from which there is no return. You catch yourself muttering to no one, fingering the hilt of your blade as if it might offer comfort. The gold in your pocket, the trinkets in your chest, they mean nothing now. The weight of them is hollow. You know deep down you'll never spend it. You'll die before it matters. And then, as always, the call sails. The hunt reignites the blood. This time it is a merchant brig, heavy and slow. The decision is swift, unspoken. There is no discussion anymore. The cannons roar. The decks shudder. The air fills with acrid smoke, with splintered wood, with screams. You board with the others, blade flashing, blood misting the air. Every heartbeat is a surge of violence, every breath choked with the taste of death. You don't even flinch as you drive your cutlass through a man's chest. His eyes lock with yours, wide, wet with shock. You hold them there until they dim. Then you push him aside, stepping over his corpse without a word. When the guns fall silent, the deck is a butcher's table. You wipe your blade on a dead man's sleeve, panting. The hull is rich, bolts of silk, casks of wine, silver coin. The crew cheers, voices raw with greed and madness. But you feel nothing, not triumph, not relief, only the cold, empty breath of survival. The storm, the blood, the plunder, it all blurs. Days fold into each other. Nights pass without dreams. The ship sails on, devouring what little remains of your humanity. In the rare moments of shore leave, you feel more foreign on land than you ever did at sea. The ground beneath your boots feels wrong, too solid, too still. The faces of townsfolk look at you with fear, with suspicion. You sit in taverns, surrounded by noise and life, but you are a part, a shadow, a thing that cannot return to what it once was. The women smell of perfume and powder, soft hands brushing your scars, but even their touch feels distant. You drink until your hands stop shaking. You gamble until the coins are gone. You fight because it's the only thing you still know how to do. And always, always, you return to the ship because land is death. Land is memory. Land is the weight of everything you've done. The sea is oblivion. The ship becomes your world again, the only one that makes sense. You lose yourself in the motions, the creak of the wheel, the the snap of canvas, the sting of salt in your eyes, the code, the crew, the horizon. Nothing else matters. Nothing else exists. And somewhere in the deep, beneath the endless blue, something waits. You can feel it. You've heard the stories of ghost ships, of cursed sailors, of creatures older than time. And sometimes when the mist rolls in thick and the lanterns flicker low, you think you see it too. Shadows beneath the waves, moving in ways no living thing should move. The crew mutters of bad luck, of bad omens. The dead have grown too many. The coin feels tainted. The sea is watching. You sharpen your blade anyway, because out here there's no one coming to save you, and you would not let them if they tried. The days grow stranger. You notice it in small ways at first. The way the waves seem to move against the wind, the way the sky at dawn burns with an unnatural hue, sickly gold and bruised violet, the way the crew, those few who remain, have stopped speaking altogether, their eyes glassy, unfocused, lost in thoughts they don't dare give voice to. You're not sure when the whispering started. At night, when the ship rocks gently on black water, you hear it just below the breath of the sea, a soft murmuring sound, like voices carried from a distant shore. You sit up in your hammock, heart pounding, but when you look, there's nothing, only the creak of ropes, the sigh of the wind, the stars staring coldly down. You tell yourself it's the waves, the wood, the wind, but the whispering follows you into your sleep. The food is gone, the water is sour, men chew leather belts, suck marrow from discarded bones. The surgeon, his hands red to the wrists, no longer bothers with the niceties of stitching. He cuts, he burns, he discards. The pile of limbs grows taller. The rats are gone now too, eaten weeks ago, their bones crushed for soup, and still somehow you sail on. One morning, after a night thick with fog, the sea opens to reveal an island, jagged, black, rising from the water like the teeth of some ancient beast. The crew gathers at the rail, silent, their faces pale with something close to dread. The captain, who once barked orders with iron certainty, says nothing. His eyes are empty, his hands tremble. No one remembers setting course for land. The island draws you in, and you know somehow deep in the marrow of your bones that nothing good waits there. But the need for food, for water, for any change at all, drives you forward. The longboats touch shore. The sand is black glass. The air hums with unnatural heat. You can feel the island watching, alive, awake, aware of your trespass. The trees twist in grotesque shapes, branches clawing at the sky. The birds are silent. The ground beneath your boots is soft in places too soft. And when you kneel, brush aside the leaves, you see them bones, human shattered, gnawed clean. The whispers grow louder. The deeper you push into the island, the stranger it becomes. You find relics, carved stones covered in symbols no one recognizes, old altars crusted with something dark and sticky. There are no animals, no birds, only the sea crashing distantly against black cliffs, and the sound, the low, rising, rhythmic chanting that no man dares to name aloud. One of the men vanishes. You find his footprints leading into the jungle. You follow. They end abruptly at a pool of still black water. His boots sit neatly at the edge. His hat floats nearby. Of the man, nothing. Another man cuts his own throat that night, giggling softly as the blood pours in streams. Another walks into the surf at dawn, eyes vacant, never looking back as the waves swallow him whole, and still you cannot leave. The ship waits at anchor, but the wind has died. The sea is flat as a mirror. The sails hang limp. The sky is wrong, cloudless, colorless, humming with static. Time warps. You sleep for what feels like days. Wake to find the sun unmoved. The captain locks himself in his cabin. No orders come. You begin to dream of the deep, of shapes, of voices, of cold hands pulling you down. The men gather in muttering knots, eyes darting, fingers twitching near blades. Paranoia thickens. One night, the cook is found stabbed through the heart, his body thrown overboard without ceremony. No one asks who did it. No one cares. The island looms, always watching. And then, one night, the wind returns, sudden, violent. The sails snap full. The ship surges forward, tearing free of the unnatural calm. The island vanishes into mist behind you, shrinking into shadow, into myth. But the damage is done. You are not the same. None of you are. The ship sails on, but the crew is broken, hollow-eyed, thin, fevered. The dead are many. The living are worse. You catch glimpses of things in the water, shapes that swim too close, shadows too large, eyes that glint red in the moonlight, and the whispering never stops. Even now, as you stand at the rail, salt spray on your face, hands gripping the cold wood, you hear it, the endless rising chant, just beneath the breath of the sea. The memory of the island burns behind your eyes, and you know without doubt that the sea is not done with you, that this life, this existence, is no longer yours to escape. Out here, there is no salvation, only drift, only hunger, only the long, slow drowning of the soul, and still you sail on. The days blur into one another, each sunrise indistinguishable from the last, each sunset just another bruise smeared across the sky. You no longer mark time by the calendar of man, but by the tally of losses. How many hands buried at sea? How many decks scrubbed clean of blood? How many nights spent staring into the abyss until the abyss blinked first? Your body has changed, hardened. The softness of your former life, of land, of comfort, of kindness, has been stripped away layer by layer until what remains is lean, scarred, and cold. Your hands, once gentle, are now permanently nicked, calloused, splintered, your nails cracked. Your face, a stranger's face, has sharpened in the sun and salt. The hollow of your eyes is so deep, you wonder if your soul has long since slipped free, leaving only this, a breathing husk, animated by duty, by survival, by the cruel rhythm of the sea. The crew around you is quieter than before. Even the rowdiest, the ones who once sang bawdy songs and cracked crude jokes, have gone still, like men walking through their own funerals. The laughter died somewhere back along the endless horizon. The violence, however, remains. One man accuses another of theft. Words escalate. Blades flash. The two stumble and clash on the blood-slicked deck, neither looking for mercy. By the time it's over, one lies gasping, his guts steaming in the cold dawn air, his blood pooling black in the seams of the planks. No one cheers, no one mourns. His body is dragged to the side and tipped into the deep with the same indifference you might give to tossing away rotten meat. The captain, what's left of him, rarely emerges. He is a shadow, locked away in his quarters, muttering to charts that no longer matter, hands shaking as he pours rum over maps long blurred with salt and tears. Some whisper he's gone mad, others say he was always mad, that only madness could bring a man to this life in the first place. And you feel the edges fraying too. The dreams have worsened. Each night you are pulled down into blackness, into cold, into hands that grasp and pull and tear. The sea speaks to you in the old tongue, the one no man teaches, and no man escapes. You wake gasping, shivering in sweat, the taste of brine sharp in your throat, and then another ship. It emerges from the fog without warning, sails black as pitch, no colors raised. The crew stirs, some with terror, some with grim resolve. No one says the word, but you all think it ghost. The chase is silent. The stranger's ship moves impossibly fast, gliding over the waves, hole-slicing water without wake. The wind seems to favor them, even when your own sails hang limp. The sky darkens, the fog thickens, the air grows cold, unnaturally so. When the first cannonball strikes, it doesn't sound right. There's no thunder, no blast, only a deep, dull moan, like something from the deep has sighed. Wood shatters, men scream, smoke curls unnaturally, black as ink, clinging to your skin, your lungs, your eyes. The boarding, if you can call it that, is more a massacre. Figures in tattered coats, faces pale, hollow, mouths split in rictus grins, move through your ranks like wolves through sheep. Their blades carve effortlessly. Their eyes are wrong, glassy, black, empty. Your sword feels like a toy in your hands. Your feet slip in blood. You swing. You stab, but they do not fall. Men flee overboard, leaping into the sea, rather than face what hunts them. Some are cut down mid-run. Others vanish into the mist, their screams carried off on the wind. When you come to hours, days, the ship is adrift, silent. The deck is slick with crimson. The bodies, some are gone. Others lie twisted, burned, broken. You are alive, somehow, though you do not remember how. The sky is clear, the sea calm. The other ship vanished without trace. No one speaks for days after. The dead are given to the sea without ceremony. The living do not meet each other's eyes. Some whisper of the black ship of old legends, ships crewed by the damned, forever hunting the living. Some say you imagined it, that you're sick, sunstruck, mad with hunger and thirst. But you know better. You saw their faces. You heard the moan of their guns. You felt the cold that wasn't wind. The sea has depths you cannot name. The nightmares return, sharper now, more vivid. You see things, faces pressed against the glass of reality. You hear the keening songs of drowned men. In the distance, some nights you glimpse lights, blue flickering, dancing atop the waves, will-o'-the-wisps, deadlights, warnings. The line between waking and dreaming thins. One man tears out his own eyes. Another hurls himself from the rigging, laughing until the sea swallows him. The cook slits his own throat and paints sigils on the galley walls in his blood before collapsing. And yet, the ship sails on, because that is what you do. Out here there is no end but the sea, no truth but the horizon, no salvation but the deep, and somewhere beneath the waves you feel it, something vast, ancient, hungry, stirring, watching, calling. You do not know if you will live long enough to answer, but still you sail, still you endure, still you descend. The days no longer have names. The sun rises, the sun falls, but none aboard the ship bother marking the passage of time. Your world has been reduced to the creak of timber, the stink of salt and sweat, the endless expanse of sea on all sides. It has become a life measured in splinters, in blood, in quiet, unraveling madness. You are thinner now, not just in body, but in soul. What once weighed heavy on your heart, the faces of the men you've killed, the screams of the dying, the hollow gaze of those you've left to drown, has faded into the background noise of survival. The ache is still there, somewhere buried deep, but it's numbed by the sheer repetition of horror. Each day, you rise. You eat what's left, worms and biscuit, spoiled meat, brackish water. You check the rigging, mend torn sails, clean blood that never quite seems to dry. You watch the horizon, though you no longer know what you're hoping to see. The other men, the few who remain, are shadows, hollow-eyed, gaunt, silent. The once raucous crew of fearless buccaneers has been ground down into something barely human. Men speak in whispers now, if they speak at all. Some wear strange charms around their necks, bone, hair, bits of rusted metal, little talismans of desperation. Others mutter prayers not meant for any Christian god. The black ship is still out there. You feel it even when you can't see it. Some nights you glimpse it in the distance, a sliver of black against the darker waves, unmoving, watching. It doesn't need to chase you anymore. It knows you'll come to it in time. And then the end begins. It starts with the wind one evening. As the red sun sinks into a sea of glass, the wind dies utterly. The sails hang limp. The sea flattens into a vast, unbroken mirror. The air thickens, humid, suffocating, deathly still. Not a gull cries, not a wave stirs. The ship is dead in the water. The crew gathers on deck, pale and sweating, their eyes wide with something between terror and awe. You feel it too, that low hum deep in the bones of the ship, in the marrow of your spine, a sound below sound, a pressure in the air, the weight of something vast, unseen, awake. The sea begins to glow. It starts faint, soft blue tendrils flickering beneath the water's skin. Bioluminescence. You think at first, but it grows brighter, stronger. Soon the whole ocean beneath you is alight, rolling waves of cold, ghostly blue swirling and writhing like living things. The whispers return clear now, distinct, Voices rise from the deep, not one voice, thousands, men, women, children, laughing, sobbing, screaming, names you do not know, words and tongues older than any land dweller. You clasp your hands to your ears, but the voices curl inside your skull, dripping like black ink through your thoughts. Men fall to their knees. Some weep openly. Some claw at their own faces. Others simply stare, slack-jawed, their eyes glazed. One man throws himself overboard without a sound, and the ship begins to move. No sails, no wind, yet it drifts, slow, steady, pulled towards something on the horizon. You see it now. You all see it. Goatus. It rises from the glowing sea, like the jagged bones of some colossal beast, spires of black rock, twisted trees that seem to move, though no breeze stirs them. The sky above is not sky. It is a vast, roiling swirl of darkness, shot through with streaks of violet and green, like the aurora of some forsaken realm. You don't remember lowering the longboats. You don't remember rowing to shore. But somehow, you stand there, feet sinking into cold black sand, the surf hissing softly behind you. The others stand too, silent, dazed, their faces blank masks. Even the captain, once so iron-willed, moves like a sleepwalker. The air hums, the rocks pulse with dim light, and the path lies before you, a narrow trail of bones and stone leading upward toward the island's heart. You walk. The climb is endless, and yet you do not tire. The air grows colder with every step, the wind keening with voices not meant for human ears. Shapes shift at the corners of your vision, tall, impossible figures that vanish when you turn your head. The ground itself feels alive beneath your boots, warm and wet in places, as if breathing. At the summit you find it, a vast ancient altar, carved from stone so dark it seems to drink the light. Markings spiral across it, twisting symbols that burn to look upon. In the center lies a pit, bottomless, black, exhaling cold mist that smells of brine and rot, and something older than death. The whispers swell. You fall to your knees, not by choice but by command. The others do too, one by one, crumpling like puppets with cut strings. Some sob, some laugh, some simply stare, and from the pit it rises. You cannot describe it. There are no words, no shape, no face, only vastness, hunger, a presence so immense. Your mind bends and splinters under its weight. Your heart hammers so hard, it feels as though it will burst. Your eyes blur. You feel warmth, blood trickling from your ears, your nose, and then silence. You wake. You are on the ship. The sea is calm. The wind fills the sails. The sky is blue. The crew is gone. You stand alone on the deck, hands shaking, breath shallow. The ship glides smoothly through silver waves. There is no land, no island, no sound but the creak of wood, the flap of canvas, the endless sigh of the water. And deep inside you, something moves, something cold, something watching. You sail on because you must, because there is nothing else left. And far below, in the endless dark, it waits, smiling, hungering, and the sea, your sea will never let you go.